The war in Ukraine has been anything but predictable, and for Europe, it's been nothing short of exhausting. Entire Ukrainian cities has been labeled, the conflict grinds on, and yet something has shifted dramatically. The United States has a new president with the arrival of 47th Donald Trump. There's fresh talk of ending the misery. Unlike his predecessor, Trump has constantly pushed for a quick resolution to the war. But on the other side, Ukraine's leader, Vladimir Zelensky, remains stubbornly fixated on total victory over Russia and even entertains the fantasy of breaking up Moscow itself. Good luck with that. Zelensky continues his tour of his speeches and pleas, asking for more money and weapons, but Europe, now struggling with its own problems, doesn't have much left to give. The contrast is striking. Just 7 months ago, when the 46th president was still in office, the aid was flowing and Zelensky was grinning ears to ear. Now, not so much. With Biden gone, some of the murkier parts of his Ukraine dealings are beginning to surface. And frankly, the details are more than a little unsettling. It turns out the Biden never have truly wanted Ukraine to win its war against Russia, just to stay in the fight long enough to weaken Moscow. That's according to Ralph Golf, a former senior CIA officer who ran operation in Europe and Eurasia. In an eye-opening interview with The Times, Goff claims the Biden administration deliberately restricted critical military aid to Kiev during the earliest stages of the war, not out of luck or funds, but out of fear. The White House, he said, worried that pushing Russia too far could trigger a nuclear escalation. The result, a war has dragged on far longer than it might have. Had we equipped the Ukrainians at the time with proper weaponry, they might have been able to drive the Russians all the way out, Goff stated. It didn't happen. It set the stage for this drawn out meat grinder war we are seeing today. That meat grinder comment isn't hyperbole. Goff, who still supports Ukraine, said the West was too cautious, allowing itself to be spooked by Putin's nuclear threat. The strategy, he said, was to give Ukraine just enough to bleed, not to win. Under Biden, US has spent over $174 billion aiding Ukraine since 2022, but critics say much of that arrived later or in incomplete packages. Furthermore, some even claim that unaccounted aid could touch a trillion easily. Key systems like advanced long range missiles and air defense were delayed repeatedly. Ukraine, meanwhile, kept asking for more and kept fighting with what they had. The chilling part, a Ukrainian official, according to Goff, warned that by this coming summer, the front lines could turn into a 20 to 50-kilometer dead zone, packed with drones, robots, sensors, and landmines. A battlefield so lethal, moving through it could be almost impossible. And while Zelensky continues his calls for more aid, much of Europe is out of gas, financially and politically. The mood has shifted. 7 months ago, under Biden, Ukraine had full backing. Now, with Trump back on the world stage, Washington's priorities are changing fast. Add to that the growing murkiness around Biden era Ukraine's dealing, and it's no wonder trust is starting to fray, both in Kiev and among skeptical Western voters. In the end, it seems Ukraine was never really meant to win, just survive long enough to drain Russia's resources. The problem, Ukraine's people paid the real price. Now, viewers, think yourself. Zelensky remains stubbornly opposed to peace because the war keeps the foreign aid flowing, and with that, his political survival. Despite Ukraine being in ruins, he clings to dreams of defeating Russia not for victory's sake, but to keep the West engaged. On the other hand, Biden, long tied to the military industrial complex, saw the war as just another profitable crisis. The US didn't block peace talks in 2022 out of concern for Ukraine. They blocked them to prolong the chaos and cash in. Pain was policy and misery meant money. So, as the bodies pile up and Ukraine burns, one thing is clear: peace was never the plan, profits were. Thank you for watching.